Bitcoin bull of the moment, Galaxy Investment Partners CEO Mike Novogratz. I need your initial gut reaction. You guys are criminal. It's like almost she says, let's put Homeland Security involved.
Listen, Bitcoin is everywhere this week. You walk down the street, people are talking about it. And so it's got me a little bit nervous as a speculator that when you see that much of a frenzy, you got to be a little nervous on price. But Bitcoin's going mainstream. I keep using the expression, the herd is coming, right? The CME has got Bitcoin futures coming. All the major banks are looking at Bitcoin initiatives. Fidelity is thinking about offering it to their customers direct.
But is it overkill to have it a part of Homeland Security's focus?
You know, I think Ms. Sanders probably hadn't prepared for that question, and I'm sure Homeland Security has looked at it. The Treasury is looking at it. The Fed has looked at it. Bill Dudley was commenting on it yesterday. Our experience so far as U.S. regulators have been very receptive to the whole cryptocurrency revolution. They don't want to squish innovation. They're looking at this as an interesting, movement. And so the SEC has ruled. They're working with people, and so I think this is, listen, it's a growing economy. It's still only $300 or $275 billion market cap. That's a third of Apple.
Yeah, but it's bigger than General Electric and Disney at this point, and that's why people are a little concerned about it. Over 2 days, it went from 10,000. It went from 9,000 to 10,000, but then over 12 hours, it went to 10,000 to 11,000, and in just the past day or so, it's lost a fifth of its value. Have you been buying or selling in this period of time?
You know, both. One of the things about being a trading junkie is, when it goes way up, you can sell it and you can buy it back when it sells off. Listen, I think it's had a big move and will probably consolidate for a while. To be clear, why it had a sell-off yesterday is so many people were trying to buy that the exchanges all almost broke down. Coinbase, Kraken, all the big exchanges that people use to buy. And so it speaks to the fact that this is still a young industry. We're second grader, third grader kind of growing up, and the infrastructure needed to really, support them. It has to catch up.
Blake Berman just was the guy who asked that question. Can we bring in Blake at the moment here? Blake, that, as we have Mike Novogratz here, is rather interesting. It's got to be the first time the word Bitcoin has been mentioned in a press conference there.
Well, look, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency in general, you have widely detailed the rise of this over this past year, but really in the last few days and few weeks. And I don't believe we've ever heard anything from the administration as to regulation, whether it should be regulated, whether they can regulate it, what the president's thoughts are on this. He is, after all, a businessman and champions himself as a great businessman who has owned millions of dollars worth of stock, and he tweets about the stock market often, talks about it often, tweeted about it twice on this day, but we haven't heard anything about cryptocurrency and this whole emerging market that has suddenly sprung up right in front of our faces. Sarah Sanders, when I asked her about it, said that they are monitoring this, I believe was one of the words that she used. And when I asked what kind of level they have sort of delved into this, she did say that Tom Bossert had brought it up in a meeting earlier this week. Tom Bossert is the Homeland Security advisor. He does everything from hurricanes, as we saw earlier this year, to important national security issues. So how Bitcoin falls under that umbrella is certainly interesting, would be a follow-up question to that, one we didn't get to ask in a tight briefing setting. But it is interesting that it was brought up in a meeting this week, and it is at least somewhat, you would think, Liz, from the answer that we got from the press secretary, on the radar of this administration.
It was so unbelievably timely. And Mike, I've got to go back to this. As it was moving down, did you buy on the dip? And if so, how much? You said you were buying and selling.
Yeah, I don't like to talk about how much we buy and sell, but we sold some in the frenzy. There was a big conference in the city this week, and I gave a panel talk and got up the stage, and just the reaction felt frenzied. And so as a speculator, sometimes you sell into that, and then in the panic sell-off, we kind of bought more back.
And John McAfee, the computer programmer who founded McAfee, had come out and said Bitcoin will hit 1 million by 2020 or the end of it. Do you agree with that call from what you know so far?
Well, so, listen, I'm not sure. What I do know is this, that the market cap of the whole crypto space is $300 billion. Gold is $8 trillion, and Bitcoin's use case in the crypto world, each of these crypto coins has a use case, is really digital gold. It's store of wealth. And so at 150 billion of Bitcoin with gold at 8 trillion, it's got a long way to go.
Upon what is the value of Bitcoin based? We have people right now who've heard about it, thought about it, but don't understand it. What is its value based upon?
So to start with, go back to why it started. Bitcoin started as a reaction to the '08 financial crisis, where people lost trust in financial institutions. They lost trust in all institutions. And so Satoshi Nakamura, this mystery man or woman, created this white paper of saying, hey, we can have a different way of looking at business systems. We can have a decentralized system, so you don't need to trust JP Morgan, or you don't need to trust the Zimbabwe government or the Venezuelan central bank.
I don't know who trusts the Zimbabwe
or the Fed.
government.
And so the whole revolution is built on this idea of decentralization. And, you know, quite frankly, when I look at our politics today, when I look at Sarah Huckabee Sanders and the kind of deceit that we get, or the sleight of word that we often get out of the president of the White House, when I look around the world at world leaders, there's a lot of reason to have distrust. And it's building that kind of momentum in this whole space.
To the retail investor who's watching right now and sees it at 9,000 and change, is now a time to buy, in your opinion?
So I've told retail investors, listen, put 2 to 3% of your net worth in this space. And you can time it if you want to try to time it. Put a third in this month, a third in next month, a third in the following month. I think the whole space will be far higher a year from now and a lot higher 5 years from now.
Mike Novogratz, great to see you. We've known each other a long time. You've been a real supporter of the wrestling team for the U.S. Olympics, and a great American. Thank you very much.